10 duo strategies that you can use right after this video to instantly win some games. I'll be judging each strategy by how strong they are, how easy they are to pull off, and how fun they are. Starting off with a very underrated combo, we have Zarya Reaper. For those who are highly cultured, you would have seen this combo back in Stage 1 and Stage 2 of the Overwatch League last year, and now everyone seems to have forgotten about this surprisingly good duo. So how do these two work? Well, your Reaper teleports somewhere in the backline or onto a squishy immobile target, then Zarya bubbles the Reaper, which does one of two things. You should get a ton of free energy on Zarya, and your Reaper is allowed to stay in close range for just that little bit longer. It's vital that when your Reaper teleports in, you as Zarya and frankly, the rest of your entire team walk up, since your Reaper is basically acting like a pseudo tank with the amount of space he's creating. But what if you're not playing up against an immobile comp? What if you're against a Lucio, Moira, Tracer kind of comp? Well, in this case, your Reaper just walks forward on the enemy tank and you bubble him. Heroes like Lucio and Moira are just too slippery, and if you teleport in the backline, you just end up wasting teleports, bubble, and wraith form on basically nothing. So for strength, I'm calling this a 7 out of 10. Counters like Pharmacy, or even the map that you're on, can be annoying, but in ranked situations, I doubt you're going to run into much trouble. As for ease, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. This is super easy to pull off because there's two main playstyles, the backline flanker or the frontliner, and you just bubble whichever one your Reaper is doing. And for fun, I'm giving this a 7. I think it's fun for both the Reaper and the Zarya, who are both allowed to play more aggressively, but it can get repetitive at times, and the comp also lacks a bit of versatility too. As for the second strat that I have, and this one is a classic, I have Jungle Queen Mei. The way this works is pretty simple. You get a good wall where your Jungle Queen can actually follow up from, and then you both collapse into the target that you've walled. There's also some great micro synergy too, where your Mei is using her slow, and then your Queen gets a free knife and pulls them back even further, and you've also got that commanding shout too. Strength wise, well, I think my reaction says it all. This hero is broken! Holy shit.
All this hoe, come back here.
10 out of 10. As for ease, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Super easy to pull off on linear maps like King Zo and Colosseo, as well as it also being quite effective against most tanks in the game. Really, the map is the most limiting thing about this duo. I do not recommend doing this on Gibraltar or Junkertown for example. And lastly, fun. For this, I'm also giving it a high score of 9 out of 10. The synergy between Mei Slow and Queen Shouts is just too good to ignore. Queen is also a fun hero from the get-go, and Mei, while not fun for the enemy team, I myself can say I've had a lot of fun pulling this off. On to the next duo strat that I have, and this one is old but gold, but it's Pharmacy. I think this one is pretty easy to explain, but Mercy basically hard pockets the Pharah, especially when she's playing aggressive. This makes up for Pharah's lack of sustain, whilst also amplifying the high damage that she already does. In terms of the strength of the duo here, I think it's dependent on the rank and how skilled the Pharmacy are. If you're Yazan, then of course you're going to put this as a 9, but for the average set of players, I'm giving this a 6. Can definitely be tough to deal with in the middle ranks, but stuff like cover usage and communication between the Pharah and the Mercy is really going to be important here. The easiness of pulling off Pharmacy is also like a 5 in all honesty. Your Pharah needs to position well, knowing when and where to dive on top of squishy heroes to 2-tap them, and she also needs to be aware of how safe her Mercy is. There's almost like a symbiotic relationship between the Pharah and the Mercy that goes on here. If either one of them die, the other one will likely follow. And lastly, how fun is Pharmacy to play? For that, I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Again, it depends how competent you are, but dive bombing squishy targets, or one-shotting them halfway across the map is fun for the Pharmacy, even if it admittedly isn't fun on the receiving end. Now onto yet another old but gold duo, Ryan Lucio. The background gameplay actually consists of other tanks like Ramattra and Jungle Queen, but they also apply here too, because Lucio makes up for a key deficit that Ryan, Jungle Queen and Ramattra all have, and that's their mobility. The way this duo works is pretty simple. Your Lucio speeds in, and equally as important, speeds out your Ryan, Ramattra or Jungle Queen. In particular, this is going to allow the tank to get directly on top of the squishy in melee range, where they couldn't have been before, and Lucio also provides his own source of damage too, and can boop enemies closer to the tank to eat them up. As simple as this is honestly pretty strong. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. There likely won't be enough coordination, even in the higher elos, to deal with the Reinhardt Lucio running it down on an angle. You constantly see these dive hearts like LH Cloudy all the time anyways. Biggest concerns are just blocking cooldowns like anti-nade and not taking too much damage before you get into close range. In terms of ease, I'd also give it an 8 out of 10. Considering part of it is literally just W keying into the enemy team, which isn't hard, the only difficult part is finding out how to make this duo work on longer range maps and making sure that your team can also follow up with you. And in terms of fun, it's an 8. Who doesn't love running it down at the speed of light? Next up, I have a more unconventional strategy being Sigma and Brig. I'll quickly let Holy Shift Kid, a top 500 Brig player, explain the idea behind this, and also credit him for the background gameplay.
So I like playing with Sigma here, especially on this map. You guys can push together, take those angles together, and it just makes it very fun.
Likewise to the duo before, Brig makes up for Sigma's relatively low sustain, and Sigma makes up for Brig's lack of range. You'll see in the background gameplay here can really fortify a poke-heavy frontline quite well. Some other examples could be on Rialto first point defense, where the Sigma and Brig hold the high grounds. As a result, a Hanzo, Genji, or even Pocket Ash just can't use this high ground anymore, and that is the power of Sigma Brig. Mei is also a good alternative to Brig here, because nobody wants to get close to a Mei. So how about the strength of the duo? I think it's very underrated, and I might be biased as a Brig main, but I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Really great on escorts or hybrid maps too. As for ease, I'm giving it a 7. Your Sigma and Brig do need to hit their cooldowns for this to work properly, and you guys do need to be taking, holding, or pushing the correct angles at the same time too. And for fun, I'm giving it a 9. There's something about being almost untouchable from any range as Sigma Brig that's quite satisfying to play with. The biggest weakness of the duo is getting sped on or getting cleared out by an entire enemy team, but honestly, give this a go in your rank games. Now for a more gimmicky strat, Symmetra Orisa. This one is mainly ult based, where the Symmetra just teleports the Orisa and Terra Surge, and again, Symmetra makes up for Orisa's lack of mobility. Strength, I'm giving it a 6. Strong the first or second time you do it, but it's dependent on map geometry, and the enemy team can just split away to different angles, or stay out of LOS. Ease, I'm giving it a 9. It's literally 2 button presses. The hardest part is knowing where to place the TP, and for fun, I'm giving it an 8. Again, it kinda diminishes the more you do it, but it's definitely 10 out of 10 for the first time. Now onto the Tracer Kiriko strats. We've been seeing this pretty recently in the Overwatch League, and for good reason. Kiriko and Tracer both have insane mobility and get out of jail free cards, and Kiriko also amplifies Tracer's sustain further. Essentially, Tracer just flanks and takes an angle that she normally does, but Kiriko just comes with her. Then, both of you just go on a rampage in the enemy backline, winning pretty much every duel you can, and when things get too hot, you both dip and say, I'm about to head out. You can see this in the background gameplay, and the Washington Justice, aside from a few micro errors, do this pretty well. For strength, it's a 10. If it works in OWL, you can bet that, if properly done, it can work at the top 0.1% of ranks. For ease though, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Both Kiriko and Tracer are very mechanically demanding heroes, and Kiriko also needs to balance out healing her tank with flanking with Tracer. What if Kiriko's other support needs help? What if your tank gets antied and needs Suzu? Then she needs to dip early. But, for fun, it's a 9 out of 10. Going on deep flanks and destroying every squishy hero you know and winning every duel possible, how can that not be fun? Only thing preventing it from being a 10 out of 10 is that sometimes it can be a bit stressful. Next up, an old but gold strategy is of course Genji Ana, or more commonly, Ramatra Ana. And that's what I'll be focusing on here. The synergy mainly comes with Nano Boost, but especially with Ram Ana, Ana's single target healing stacked on top of Ramatra's block basically makes him unkillable unless he gets anti-naded. Ana of course has her own nade that she can throw when Ramatra is busy pummeling away at the enemy team. So how strong is this? Well, the ult combos are very strong, that's for sure, but Ana and Ram are also strong heroes individually, so overall, I'd give this a 9 out of 10. In terms of ease, it's also pretty easy to pull this off. Ults don't require crazy coordination, and the hardest part is going to be timing your nades with your Ram's pressure when he's busy pummeling. 7 out of 10. And how fun is this? Well honestly, it's not much more fun than usual. Apart from Genji and Nano Blade, and Ram with Nano and Annihilation, there's not too much more fun to be had with this combo. But luckily, because Ramatra and Ana are both fun heroes, this still gets a 7 out of 10. Now onto the penultimate strategy in this video, Sombra Tracer. You could also do Ball Tracer here too. This is a combo that we've seen a lot in the Overwatch League from, especially by top level teams. The way this works is that the Sombra Tracer either fight the flanks and 2v1 someone like the enemy Tracer flanking, and once they've got map control, they then stage a dive onto the enemy backline. For strength, this is of course played in the Overwatch League, but some teams do prefer running hit scan over Sombra, especially on maps with high ground and range, so I'll give this a 9 out of 10 for now. What about ease? this one is getting a 2 out of 10. Tracer is of course very mechanically demanding, but both of you need to be at the right place at the right time. I haven't even talked about coordinating EMPs, which aren't even free fight wins anymore. And as for fun, this one I think is honestly more stressful than fun. There's low range and low poke damage for both of these heroes, so if everything goes well, it is fun. But if it doesn't, it's gonna be a bloody struggle. So I'm gonna shoot this one at the middle and give it a 5 out of 10. Now finishing off with another gimmicky ultimate strat, and that's Life Weaver Cassidy. Essentially, you Cassidy high noons, then you platform yourself and drag his ass across the map with your life grip, making up for Cassidy's low mobility. Alternatively, you can also just platform up your Cassidy too. In terms of strength, it's unfortunately a 4 out of 10. High Noon and Weaver as a hero aren't strong in themselves, even if this ultimate combo can be a bit devastating. As for ease, it's also not the easiest thing to pull off, hence why I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. You both need to be in a good position with a wide LOS to get the most out of your High Noon. And as for fun, this is where the duo shines the most, and as a result, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. A Cassidy flying through the air with High Noon is a crazy sight to behold, and the gimmick really makes this duo fun to play. And that's it for the video. Here are the scores that have been averaged on screen from top to bottom, as well as their best performing category. For example, Tracer Kiriko, they got held down a lot by their ease, even though I think it's very strong to do. But regardless, I think you should try all of these duos at least once in your ranked games, and hell, even in your quick play games too. Shout out to my tier 2 Patreon and channel member, Broken by 50%, as well as my other members, T-Meg, Chris Jones, Craig, Nine Socks, Resolucio, and Susfring. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know how your games go with this video. Until next time.